The sky above Meridian glowed like a prairie fire, shadows and light reflecting on the grim faces of the cowboys in my rearview mirror. I could hear no conversation whatsoever as we sped toward town, none of the dark humor or derisive banter that typically accompanied the beginning of a workday for my crew. Each man's thoughts appeared to have folded in upon themselves. Even Snoose's teenage nephew, Tom Jenkins, was stitched with an expression that reminded me of the one I wore before my first encounter with an armed enemy battalion, a look that registered somewhere on the scale between anticipation of the unknown and the certainty of death. The Gemini record store occupied a building that had once been a Phillips 66 gas station. It was situated on a corner midway through town. I pulled onto Meridian's main street and immediately felt the wave of heat that channeled from the flaming building more than 4 blocks farther on. My men jumped down from the pickup's bed as I was braking to a stop. The town's 2 fire trucks were parked at diagonals near the entrance to the record store, aiming their deluge guns toward the flames that licked the shattered edges of the display window. A black column of oily smoke billowed from beyond the tall facade, somewhere near the center of the roof, where the header beams had failed and had collapsed upon themselves. The groan of superheated concrete and steel reverberated behind the curtain of heat and flame and smoke, and smelled of petrochemicals and steam. I waded through the bedlam, finally identifying the fire captain as he directed the operation of the water cannon, and short minutes later, I and all of my cowboys had been deployed. Somewhere in the hours of pre-dawn I stumbled, literally, across my deputy, Jordan Powell. It had taken us nearly 3 hours to bring the blaze under control, and in the aftermath Powell was sipping coffee as he perched himself on the elevated sidewalk, stretching his legs into the street. He was barely recognizable, his face and all of his clothing having been blackened by the smoke, only the white of his smile visible beneath the angle of his hat brim. "Morning, Captain," Powell said. "When did you get here?" "I was sleeping at the substation when the fire bell went off," he said. "Been here ever since." He took off his hat and examined it in the meager morning light. "Ruined my resistol, too." I looked up the street where Rowan Boyle had opened the front door to his diner and was wheeling a cart he'd stacked with pastries and an urn of coffee to the men who had fought the fire. The last few stars still shone inside the dome of pale blue sky, but the atmosphere down on the ground was shot through with the naphtha stench of charred gypsum and rubber. "Lucky this place was out on the corner by itself," he said. "Any closer to them old wood buildings, this whole block might have went up."